Hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on misplacedstraws.com, where music comes to life. My guest today began as one of the inventors of the shred guitar movement in the 80s, but since then he's seen incredible success with his band Mr. Big, as well as a prolific solo career. He's about to release his 16th solo record on June 4th, titled Werewolves of Portland. It's a true honor to welcome one of my guitar heroes, Mr. Pail Gilbert. Welcome, Paul.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for doing this.
You're welcome. I got to test out and see if my wolf howl's working. Can you hear that?
I can.
I think it needs to be louder, though. That's a little better.
There we go. So let's talk about this new record, Werewolves of Portland. You have a pretty killer band backing you up on it, consisting of, well, you. Prior to the pandemic, did you ever think you'd put out a record where you've done everything on it?
Well, the very first solo record that I did, King of Clubs, back in the 90s, I tried to do that, but I fired my drummer. I tried to play drums. I practiced a lot too. I spent like months practicing, and then I got in the studio and I started to, hear my performances, and I went like, we got to get somebody who can really play in here, and so I had my doubts that now that I could do it, because I didn't practice. This time I hadn't practiced in years, but I thought, man, I don't know what else I'm going to do. It just seemed complicated to get people together with the masks, and we had to decide what to do. So I thought, I'm just going to try it. I'll get an engineer to help, so I don't have to do I can just keep my mind on the music. And we started with the easy song, it was like the ballad, because it was slow, and that came together. And then we did a fast song next, and I was a little worried, but I managed to do it. And after that, we were on our way. So the drums was the main thing I was worried about, and that ended up being so much fun. That was a blast. Whoever, when I eventually do play these songs live, whoever's playing drums is going to have such a good time. I'm jealous. Maybe I should hire a guitar player and I can play.
And one thing I love about your solo stuff is there's always a great melody and hook to the song. And I know you've said that when you write with sort of vocal melodies in mind, in lyrics as well, even though they're instrumentals. I mean, have you ever thought, as you're doing everything else, why don't I just sing on this one too?
Well, in a way, the argument about Pie, which was kind of the single, and that I'm proud of what I was able to create, because I think it might be the first instrumental song that has a lyric video. Because I did want to get the lyrics across. I like them. That's not always the case. Sometimes the lyrics are just kind of a scaffolding to build the song, and I look at them and like, those aren't worth anybody knowing about. But arguing about Pie, I like the words. So I did think. Well, I didn't think I could sing it, because if nothing else, just a matter of range. I've got a lower voice. My voice is kind of like having the two bottom strings, to work with. So, if it fits on those, if I like the highest note you can play, I can kind of get that, but it's not. I have to scream it out, and it has the severe limitations. If you listen to any standard rock song, you listen to Steven Tyler sing, and he's and I'm able to get that note. I can get that note with falsetto, but then I sound like Mickey Mouse because I don't have that same instrument as he does. So the closest I've come to that was, I thought, like Freddie Nelson, who I've worked with before, he would sing. He does a really good job of kind of taking what I would like to sing, but singing it with a real voice. So I'd love to have him sing Argument About Pie someday. The only problem is I only wrote one chorus. So, you'd just be saying the same thing 3 times, and I'd have to figure out, and I kind of said everything I wanted to say, so I'd have to hire a poet to, write 2 more sets of lyrics.
Finish it off. Yeah.
It just sounds like a lot of work.
And I've always loved with your music too, that you keep a sense of humor about it. I mean, going back to the Racer X days, where the faster you played, you're considered this guitar god, but was it always important to you just to kind of keep that sense of humor and levity about all of it?
Well, it's not it's honest.
Hmm.
It's I don't think like, it's not like a checklist and I go like, oh, forgot to put the sense of humor in,
Right, right. Well,
and
it's
well,
natural.
let me
Yeah.
find some and pour sprinkle it on there. Um, and a lot of times, I don't know, the humor is a funny thing. I don't really know how to break it down.
Mhm.
I don't know how to explain humor other than like sometimes people will think that because I have, will use it, they'll try to put me in situations that they think will work for me, and I'll go like, no, that's not the same.
Yeah.
Like, but my sense of humor is sort of something I hold on to. Is a very, very personal thing,
Mm.
and the way that I might find something funny might not match up with somebody else. There was a video I did recently, and they were trying to get me to like do some toilet humor stuff,
Yeah.
and I mean, so some of that is funny, but I don't know. I wasn't really comfortable with that. So,
Yeah. It didn't fit what you were doing. Yeah.
yeah. So it happens when it happens, and I can't really help it, and my apologies.
Well, I've always appreciated it. So. But and along with that, almost there are two songs on this record inspired by a Russian composer Dmitri Shostakovich. And I mean, for those who don't know, this guy lived an amazing life navigating Stalin and the Soviet Union. What was it
We
about?
got to figure out how to pronounce his last name. I thought it was Shostakovich, but
Very well could
but
be. Yeah.
but I don't know actually. I've just so you might be right, or it might be both. I mean, it's Russian after all. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Chances
sorry
are
to
we're
interrupt
both
you.
wrong.
Yes, yeah. His record company was Joseph Stalin,
Yeah.
and it's always funny to me. I think it was Todd Rundgren who I'm a huge Todd Rundgren fan, and he was
Mhm.
talking about the music business, and he came up in the '60s when vinyl was like the only thing there was, and he had a great vinyl career, and he was able to navigate a lot of he was on sort of the cutting edge of a lot of music industry
Right.
changes. He was one of
Mhm.
the first guys to do a video. He was always on doing computer things, and I heard him talking about the business, and he said, man, we people get this idea that like, oh, that structure of the industry that was in the '70s, like this golden age, and we should just always have that. And of course, it was wonderful.
Mhm.
But if you like take a larger view of musicians, even back, let's say you go back 300 years, and I mean, I can't remember exactly how old Bach or
Yeah.
Mozart, Beethoven were.
Mhm.
They couldn't even record.
Mhm.
I mean, they had, they could write stuff down, but there was no recorded music. There were no record companies. Their record company was the king.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that had its own set of advantages and disadvantages, and so whatever area you live in, you're going to have that. You're going to have some things that I mean, I think probably some bands in the '70s really. I know I lucked out. For example, Lean Into It.
Mhm.
That was still right on the verge of the vinyl days with Mr. Big. That was a big selling record,
Yeah.
and I didn't write the hit. That was
Mhm.
Eric Martin's
Yeah.
song. He wrote "To Be With You," but I actually wrote the most songs on the record.
Mhm.
So, so I really benefited from that, and that's not fair at all. Like it didn't sell because of my songs; it sold because of Eric's songs. So there are things where you luck out, you win the lottery, and there's other things where you totally get. I released the record last year with Pledge Music and didn't get paid
Yeah.
anything because it was the company folded. So you just sort of go like, you just keep going.
Yeah.
And if Joseph Stalin's your record company and he doesn't like your song, so he's going to send you to Siberia to a death camp, that's bad. And then you write you write your Fifth Symphony and it's amazing, and everybody claps, and Joseph likes you too, and
It's like, cool, get to live another year.
and when the Germans surround the city, he gives you he brings in some food so you don't starve to death. So there's life is interesting.
To say the least.
And to me, looking at the what Shostakovich had to endure or navigate, it makes my little problems navigating just seem small, and
Yeah.
I just sort of get to laugh about my own, and any complaints I would have.
Yeah. And you mentioned Lean Into It, and this is actually a big year. This is the 30th anniversary of that spectacular record. You have the anniversary edition coming out in a few months, and one thing that those of us who were really into the music grabbed us on that record was the electric drill. And how did that whole thing come about, using it for the harmonics and the speed? I mean, were you playing around with power tools, or was it, I'm going to go to the drill?
Well, it was pretty noisy, because the engine of the drill would or the motor would get close to the pickup, and that's when Van Halen did it later on. That's the main thing he did. It was which was really a cool sound. I mean, arguably better than the picks spinning around. But it was just an exaggeration, during the race, because I started doing that in the Racer X days, and any notice that we got, in any interview that we did, it was always the same thing, like, oh, you guys play so fast, it's all speed this and speed that. And I always felt that was an element of it, but I felt we had more to offer than just we were playing as fast as we can all the time. So to me, it was a little, the speed thing was a little overemphasized, and I thought, well, if we're going to overemphasize it, let's really overemphasize it, and that's, putting the picks on the end of the drill was just taking that idea to its ridiculous end. So, but when we did it, the audience would light up, everybody would smile, and that's always good. So, when I joined Mr. Big, I brought that idea into Mr. Big, and Billy and I did it together. And again, the result is like kind of something a little bit noisy, but everybody cracks up. The problem is I always forget that that's something that I did. And I really should take more advantage of it, because it's almost like, Angus Young shows up to the gig and he forgot to wear shorts. It's like, Angus, what are you doing with long pants? And me not having the drill is, it's kind of like Angus with forgetting the shorts or something. But it's not, I don't really feel bonded to it in a musical way, so I think that's why I don't remember that I do it, because it's more of a performance thing. So but please, before the next tour, call me up and remind me, bring the drill. And I'm like, oh, that's right. It's also, it's kind of a pain to pack. It's heavy, so then I got to worry about the airport. They're going to overcharge me for the suitcase, so that's the other thing.
And you had mentioned how Eric wrote the big hit on that record, and he's just a master of writing those beautiful melodic songs. But again, for me, your green tinted 60s mind was always the centerpiece of that record. Were you guys kind of surprised that it was To Be With You that connected with the audience, or was it as soon as you heard it, you're like, yeah, that's a hit?
Well, as soon as we heard To Be With You, we all really liked it. There was unanimous fondness of the song and the melody, and everybody really was into it. And I think that surprised Eric, because I think Eric couldn't get it out of his head, that Billy and I were like metal musicians, even though we tried everything. I mean, Billy and I are constantly like strumming Beatles songs and doing things from a pop world, and Billy knew all the R&B, soul, the bass parts, but somehow Eric was like, they're metal. They're never going to like a melodic ballad. But he actually, Eric did know that I was Beatles fan, so he played that for me in the car one day. He's like, this is a song I wrote, it's kind of Beatley, and I couldn't get it out of my head. I just heard it once, his demo of it, and I actually initially just called him up and went like, Eric, that demo, the kind of Beatley demo you sent me, can you send that to me? I just want to hear it again. I was just a fan of the song. And then it was my job in those days to make the rehearsal cassettes for everybody. I had the dubbing deck. So I'd record rehearsal and I'd make copies and get to everybody so we could remember the songs. And I just snuck that on at the end. And my phone started ringing at the end of the day. Everybody's like, what's that song in the end? I say, that's a great song. So, Eric was like, I can't believe you guys want to do that. I thought you're metal guys. So we did it. And we were a little worried because we did want to be perceived as a loud, powerful, high energy rock band. So we're a little worried that fans might go, oh, they've gone soft, but we really believed in the song. Just that was outweighed by our love of the tune. And then with what becomes a hit, you never know. You know, you talk to any musician, and you know, I'm reading Paul Simon going like 50 ways to leave your lover. You know, we never thought that was. So I don't even get into that. You know, I don't even I just put it out there and walk away. You know, and then wait for somebody to tell me something.
Yeah. And one thing that comes across on that record, and really throughout that band's career, is that despite the enormous amount of talent, there doesn't seem to be much ego in the band. I mean, as you said, songwriting credits, all of you guys took part. The song always came before anybody's solo or anybody's playing. What is it about just the four of you guys that gelled in a way that let you just be a band and not a collection of talent?
A band is not a what?
As opposed to just a collection of talent.
Oh, right. Let me think about that. Sometimes I have an answer right away. Sometimes I go, Well, first of all, I mean, we definitely had our share of drama and strife.
Yeah.
But I think we all connected musically because we liked a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah.
You know, as much as Billy and I had one foot in metal, you know, we grew up with the Beatles and with you know, with the Motown catalog and you know, hard rock that had a lot of heavy blues influence to it. I mean, half of Led Zeppelin is blues songs louder, you know, and Eric was, you know, so I mean, at sound check, we'd always just play cover songs and everybody would know them. You know, with like zero rehearsal, we just dive in, start playing Bad Company or Led Zeppelin or you know, Beatles or whatever it was. So I mean, and that was also how I was able to relate, because I was a lot younger than everybody, and that was difficult for me because, you know, at rehearsal when we'd take a break and everybody would start talking about stuff, it was like, man, I don't know what I'm doing with these grown-ups, because their experiences were so beyond. You know, I was like just out of high school almost, so I just felt like this little kid hanging out at the grown-up table, and you know, eventually, as time went on, I was able to relate a little bit. But they, you know, the music was the way that I could gain respect and connect. And you know, I grew up with my parents' record collection, so you know, I was on the same page musically as they were. So that was that was it. It was all through music.
And speaking of which, I mean, you know, you're sitting there with your guitar. Anytime you want to do a musical interlude would be, you know, perfect. So, you know, feel free to play.
Oh, well, what do I need to play? I need to play some slide. There we go.
Yeah, always good to hear. And you know, getting back to Werewolves of Portland, you know, it looks like some clubs and small theaters across the country might be opening up over the next few months and having shows. Have you thought at all about hitting the road, or you just, you know, putting the record out there and see what happens?
Well, the first thing I've got is a guitar camp called the Great Guitar Escape, which was supposed to happen last year. We had to postpone it, and it's looking like it's going to happen. You know, I've just been sort of, you know, keeping an eye on it, and but the promoters gung ho, and all the staff. I mean, everybody staff. I hate to call them staff. It's like, you know, some legendary musicians, Eric Gales and Tony McAlpine, and you know, really really awesome people. But George Lynch. So you know, hesitate to put them in the staff category, but we're all working together on it, and everybody's into it. You know, I've got my first shot, and so you know, I'm sort of aiming at that, seeing how that goes, and then, you know, just keeping an eye on the world. At the same time, it's been nice to be in my own bed, and you know, I've been on tour for, I don't know, 30 years, something like that. So you know, the to be able to be home and not have to, you know, be in airports all the time, it's been pretty nice. and I have an online guitar school, so I've been busier than ever, you know, keeping up with all the students there. And it's really, I enjoy it. It really, as connected as you can be, you know, with video, that's been amazing.
Well, and that's why. Do you think that there may be a change sort of in the business because of all this? Where, I mean, you could do concerts from home now and reach an entire country rather than doing a 3-month tour. Have you thought about how, changes going forward because of this, or are you looking forward to getting back on the road?
Well, I mean, I did some. There's a company called Stage It, and I did some
Yep.
concerts for that, and there were certainly good things about it. I mean, it was like, it was paying work, so that's always good. Musically, it was satisfying because I could do anything I want. They have a nice setup where you can play covers, and you don't have to worry about the publishing.
That's good.
So I did like
Yeah.
these 35 song medleys of all, every song I could think of, and so that part was good. The hard part was like when you when you perform, it's nice to be able to see people.
Mhm.
And you could see text messages coming
Yeah.
back. They kind of read like, "Yeah, it's rocking," but there's a real disconnect
Yeah.
uh, compared to being able to play for a person in real time, being able to see the expression on their face,
Mhm.
being able to feel the people in the same room, and that's hard. I mean, missing. I don't know if that can be replaced.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, it's still valuable. I'm glad I did those. I'll probably do more. Whether there's a lockdown or not,
Yeah.
because they're still they're positive in a unique way, but they're not.
Mhm.
They're no substitute. It's
Mhm.
not the same connection.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to catch you on the road at some point soon as all of this begins to clear up. Um, and will you hit the road solo? I mean, do you foresee Mr. Big getting back? I mean, though we've lost Pat, but getting back with another drummer, have you thought that far ahead yet?
The future is hard to predict,
Yeah.
especially these days.
Yeah.
Um, I mainly, the thing I hold on to the most, just because in the situation we've been in, it's been such a positive thing, is my school,
Yeah.
and although there's video, it's actually called a video exchange. None of it's live,
Mhm.
and the advantage of that is that the quality of the video is a lot higher,
Mhm.
because you don't have to deal with the streaming thing
Yeah.
or internet connections. You can load up pretty high quality
Mhm.
in both directions. What I see
Mhm.
from the student watching them, and what I load back up, and also it gives me a chance to think. Like when you ask me a question in an interview, sometimes I know the answer and I go on and on. Sometimes it's like, oh, I got to think about that. And if I've got 5 minutes to think about the student's question,
Yeah.
my answer is going to be much better.
Right.
And that's usually the case. I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes I'll know right away. Other times it's like, man, I got to think about that, or I got to go and listen to this song they're talking
Mhm.
about. So I think, and I've done every kind of teaching in the world. I've been teaching for a
Mhm.
long, long time, and it surprised me because initially you'd think like, oh, if it's not live, that's live must be
Mhm.
better. But man, having that the ability to like think about it and then reply, and it everybody gets more focused
Yeah.
because the question becomes more focused, and there's a joyful thing about there's certain things that will only happen with a live conversation,
Mhm.
but in terms of teaching, man, it works great. I've really seen uh more positive results from my students in with
Mhm.
with that school. The company's called Artist Works, if you want to
Yep.
Google it. um than with any other situation. And people do. Hopefully I explained it clearly, but a lot of times people don't really get it until they get on it. But I've done like over 10,000
Yeah.
videos and they're all in the archives. So
Mhm.
if you're a guitar player, you got to check it out. It's like $1 a day.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, we've been spending some time here with Paul Gilbert. The record is called Werewolves of Portland. It's out everywhere June 4th. Paul, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. It's been great getting to talk to you and getting to know you a little bit. And hopefully we can catch you on the road when the world clears up.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you so much for talking to me. Let me see if I can play a little bit since I got a guitar.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, like the argument, the single arguing
Yeah.
about pie. Can I say argument? I got to say that
Yeah.
clearly without slurring it. I wrote it as a vocal song. You can never get in an argument about pie. You can never get in an argument about pie. Strum a major chord, drop your C on low. You really have to try So that you know, that's what it began its life, and then with my guitar, I can do it for real. You know. Now that note, if I tried to get that with my voice, it's so much more beautiful on this. So
That it is.
thank you, whoever invented the guitar,
Yeah.
and thank you for talking to me. I'll see you again soon. Rock and
Thanks a
roll.
lot, Paul. Thank you.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.